C is for conditioning the right way. If you've ever told your gymnast to do 100 hollow body rocks or hold a 1-minute hollow or something along those lines, stop it and listen to these 3 essential C's of conditioning. The first C of conditioning is we need copycat conditioning. Copycat conditioning. What I mean by that is we need conditioning that mimics the sport of gymnastics, but isn't the sport of gymnastics. So we don't do gymnastics just to get better at gymnastics. Instead, we want to do things that mimic the sport of gymnastics that will help our gymnasts along their journey of becoming stronger, becoming more powerful, becoming more endurant in order to do this crazy sport that we love. So we want copycat conditioning. And so to dive deeper into that, what we don't want to do is we don't want to do things that either contradict gymnastics or are kind of a wash and are of no benefit. So like I talked about in the beginning, 100 hollow body rocks. That is an impressive amount of hollow body rocks. I can't say that I've never given a gymnast 100 hollow body rocks, but now that I know better, I don't do that anymore. What is the purpose of 100 hollow body rocks? Does your gymnast ever have to do 100 of anything in a row? Probably not. Does your gymnast ever have to hold a hollow body for a whole minute during any skill in gymnastics? Probably not. Do they need to be able to hold it for 2 seconds or 3 seconds, 5 seconds, something like that? Yes. Do they need to especially be able to move in and out of the hollow body? That is probably more likely. When we start working endurance, does your gymnast need to be able to run a mile? Probably not. Even if they could run a 6-minute mile or a 5-minute mile, it's impressive, but it's not really beneficial for gymnastics. That type of endurance uses a completely different energy system called the slow twitch muscle fibers, and we don't want those to be getting any more attention than they already like to have. We want our gymnasts fast. We want them explosive, and we want them powerful. And the way to do that is to make sure that we're doing that copycat conditioning. So if I do have them run for 10 minutes, which is completely possible, I'm probably going to do something more like HIIT style training, HIIT, which is high intensity interval training. And so that's going to be like one of the very easy traditional ways to do high intensity interval training would be to go onto a soccer field and you would sprint the long side and walk the short side, and sprint the long side and walk the short side. And in that way, you're getting high intensity interval training. And that's the type of endurance that our gymnast needs, not the run 3 miles or bike for 10 minutes or anything along those lines. So we want to do copycat conditioning, conditioning that mimics gymnastics but isn't gymnastics. The second C of conditioning the right way would be to count less. What do I mean by count less? That sounds confusing. What I mean by that is do less reps. We need less reps of conditioning to get the same effect and to keep them healthy and safer. So in order to perform at a high level, obviously these gymnasts need to be very, very strong. But we don't want to do that by doing really high repetition activities. And high repetition activities like that 100 hollow body rocks that I talked about before, or 50 squats, or 30 chin-ups in a row, or something like that. And the reason why is because in order to build strength, not just building muscle is called hypertrophy, but in order to build strength, what we need to do is we need to keep reps low, but resistance high. And so that's when we talk about more like traditional weight training. And we're going to get into that in a later video and get into kind of the ins and outs of weight training. But for now, you need to know that weight training or resistance training is a much superior form of conditioning than just doing body weight conditioning all the time. Now, will body weight conditioning make your muscles bigger? Sure, it will, of course, because hypertrophy, muscles getting larger, happens anywhere between 5 repetitions and 30 repetitions. But building pure strength happens anywhere less than 10 repetitions. So if we're trying to make our gymnasts strong, we want to do less repetitions. If we just want to make them bulky, we can do more. So I think you know the answer to that question. It's not a trick question by any means. We want our gymnasts strong pound for pound, right? That's one of the things that gymnastics is known for, is that gymnasts are pound for pound the strongest athletes in the world, right? And so we want to make sure that our gymnasts are, in fact, pound for pound the strongest athletes in the world, and that involves less repetitions and more resistance or more weight in order to make that happen. And finally, point number 3. But before we get to point number 3, please drop a comment below. Tell me what you think about this video. Give it a like. Share the video to whoever needs to hear it. And please subscribe to this channel so I can keep making amazing content, and the content can just keep getting better and better for you. Now, on to number 3. Number 3 is to make sure that you cycle your conditioning. Now, I know that sounds like an S, but I promise it's a C word. So the last C of conditioning the right way would be to cycle your conditioning. What I mean by that is we have to use this big, long P word called periodization. Hopefully you've heard about periodization by now, but if you haven't, let me introduce the topic to you, and we can talk about it more in other videos as well. But periodization is the way that you cycle the intensity of practice in order to obtain a certain objective. And so what that could look like is you build for 3 weeks, and then on the 4th week, you break things down, you deload, you down train, and you make sure that they're feeling good that 4th week, so that way they can be ready for when you start progressing back up again. But conditioning needs to be done in a cyclical manner. And during the off season, this is the most important time, because usually during the off season, we're trying to make big gains, right? We want our gymnasts really strong, really powerful, really endurant by the time that summer ends, because when we add in routine training during season, it's really tough to get into hard conditioning as well, because then we start to overstress their bodies and overwork their bodies, and we don't want that to happen. So we want to cycle conditioning, especially in the summertime. And if you want big changes, then you're going to have to use something called block periodization. What block periodization entails is that what I do with my girls most of the time during the summer is I want them to do 8 weeks of strength building. So that's what we talked about in point number 2, where we need to count less. We really want to get to fatigue with them by 8 to 10 repetitions, maybe even less, depending on how good their form and technique is when they really get some heavy weight or resistance on them. So we want to make sure that the exercise is sufficiently difficult enough in order to make them fatigue during that strengthening conditioning phase of strength building in the beginning of summer, in order to produce that outcome that we want, building strength. So 8 to 10 reps. Then we move on to power. And so I'm going to take all that strength that we've gained, and I want to flip it into something useful, which would be power, because it's all good if they can lift the corner of their house. But if it takes them 10 years to do it, it doesn't really mean anything. So we want to make sure that they can do something amazing in a very short amount of time. So we want fast gymnasts, we want powerful gymnasts. So that's when I cycle to 8 weeks of power-based conditioning. And I'm going to up the reps probably a little bit. I'm going to use ballistic exercises. I'm going to use sprinting or quick exercises, and I might even use some plyometric exercises as well. And then the third phase of my summer conditioning is going to be that endurance phase. And that endurance phase is more of that HIIT style training like we talked about towards the beginning of this video, where I'm doing circuits, but it's 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, 60 minutes on, or 60 minutes, don't do that. 60 seconds on, 15 seconds off. So that could be really intense, right? And have some fun with some music during this time, and play heavy rock music during the on time, and play the Jeopardy theme song during the off time. Okay, but have some fun, make it exciting, cheer for each other, keep the energy up, because that can be some really hard conditioning. Now, coaches, if you need help planning this conditioning, please reach out to me. There's going to be a link in the description below that you can just set up a time to talk with me and figure out how I can help you with your strength and conditioning program. I hope I hear from you. If you have any questions, drop me a email or a comment below this video. To wrap things up, boxers learned a long time ago that in order to get better at boxing, they didn't just need to get into the ring and box. They needed to do things outside of the ring in order to get better at boxing. And gymnastics has taken a long time to learn this lesson. And so a lot of times I get coaches that just do lots and lots of gymnastics to make them better at gymnastics. But what that does is it wears down their body and it makes injuries happen faster, more often, more frequently. Their bodies are going to break down a lot faster if you're doing gymnastics in order to get better at gymnastics. We need to have conditioning the right way. We need to make sure that our conditioning is copycat conditioning. We need to make sure that we count less and do fewer reps of conditioning while making the exercise harder. And we need to make sure that we cycle our conditioning to produce that true outcome that we want.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to this channel. Feel free to leave any comments below or questions, and I'll be sure to get to them. If you haven't already, go ahead and join our Facebook group. Search the Gymnastics Doc and join the group where I post live streams and questions, and we do discussion all about keeping your gymnast healthy, happy, and safe. See you soon.